Hello, everybody. Welcome back to The Future Is Now, a podcast. I'm your host, Spencer Nakamura, and I hope that you're having a great Tuesday morning / afternoon / night. I don't know, guys. I posted yesterday on Instagram a Monday morning Q&A, and then somebody was like, actually, it's 9 p.m. in Finland. So whatever time it is where you are listening, I just hope that you're having a great Tuesday. Or maybe it's Wednesday where you're at, or maybe it's Monday. Who knows? But I hope that whatever day, whatever time, you're having a great day. I'm excited for today's episode. We are starting a new series, everybody. It's going to be so exciting. It's practical principles, and don't be like, oh, great, practical principles sounds really exciting. No, it'll be awesome. I'm really excited for this series. If you haven't yet, if you're tuning in for the first time, make sure to subscribe to the podcast. And if you have been listening and you haven't yet, make sure to leave a written review on Apple Podcasts. I think we're at 62 right now, which is a huge jump. It's like 10 more than last week, which is amazing. So make sure that you're continuing to write the written reviews. Give me a 5-star. I had somebody give me a 3-star. Listen, if you're going to give me a review, just give a 5-star review, okay? So make sure to leave a written review. It's how we get the podcast out there. This past week, we had another leap. So 2 weeks ago, we were at 1,000 downloads. This past week, we were at 2,300 downloads. Guys, that's like 100% growth. It's crazy. It's insane. So thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for posting on Instagram. Make sure you shout this out. Follow me on Instagram at Spencer Knock, and let's talk. DM me about this episode. I'd love to hear your feedback and any questions that you guys have. You guys are always amazing about that. But without further ado, let's get your hearts and your minds ready for today's episode. All right, let's jump into this practical principles introduction. Guys, this is a new series. I'm pumped for it. New series, practical principles. And we're starting with the intro of self-sabotage. Now, if you don't know what self-sabotage is, it's basically doing things against ourselves that doesn't help us. Okay, so when we're talking about practical principles, it all has to do with this one word called maturity. It's maturity. Okay, because God calls us to grow in faith. And if you don't know that, we are to grow in our faith. But a lot of times it's such an obscure concept. Like, what does that even mean? Grow in faith. What does it look like? That's a big thing that I get is like, what does my life look like when I'm growing in faith? And what it looks like is this maturity. We ought to be maturing in our faith every single day. What does maturing mean? I mean, it means growing up. You know, you look at your life and how you've grown up, how you've learned, how you developed into an adult. That is what maturity is. Same thing in life, same thing in our faith, is we have to learn more about Scripture, more about the heart of God, more about ourselves and how to navigate in a way that we are maturing and learning and growing. You know, a couple verses that come to mind. 1 Corinthians 14:20 says this, "Do not be children in your own thinking. In your thinking, be mature." So Paul's like, hey, the way that you think, it's got to be mature. And then we look at 1 Corinthians 13:11 as well. And it says, "When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. And I reasoned like a child. And when I became a man, I gave up childish ways." When I became a man. So he's talking about this concept of growing up. Because here's the thing. Being a child is awesome. I don't know if you experience this, but like sometimes I'm, in my adult life, I'm 27 years old now. And sometimes I'm like, man, can I just go back to being like 10 years old, right? Because like being a child was awesome. You had people that cooked for you. You had people that bought clothes for you. You had, you were involved in sports or school. You had little responsibility and you had somebody to remind you every single time you had to go somewhere. Life was awesome. You had no cares in the world. So being a child is great. But what happens is as you grow up, as you learn, you start to learn about the things that were given to you. Okay, so you start to learn how to feed yourself. You start to learn how to take care of yourself, how to do your own laundry. And then you grow up into an adult and you leave childish ways behind. Then you start contributing back to society as an adult, hopefully. I mean, I think we all know some couch bums out there, but for the most part, we learn how to give back to society, get a job, get our own family, start providing. So that's what it looks like to mature in life. And the thing is, we're forced to do that in life. I mean, it's like you either do it or you don't survive, right? You either learn how to feed yourself or you're going to go hungry. You either learn how to be responsible or your life's going to be chaotic. So we're forced to do that as an adult. However, there are some Christians that stay children in their faith forever. And it's super disheartening when I see a Christian that's been saved for decades, a decade, so long. And yet I'm like, man, you are such a child in the way that you think about your faith and the way that you process in the things of God. You are still a child. And it sounds harsh, but I mean, it's literally what Paul is saying right here. Like when I was a child, I did childish things, but when I became a man, I left those behind. And so the fruit of growing in faith is maturing. How do we walk into maturing? It's getting our practical principles in place. And you might say, what are practical principles? We're going to be talking about all types of different principles: integrity, honesty, prayer, servanthood. We're going to be talking about all those things that help us to mature in our faith. Okay. So now that we're talking about, growing up in childish ways, leaving those behind, there are Christians that are still children that walk in those childish things. That is not my heart for you. As a listener of the future is now family. We will not be content with being children in our faith. We will grow into being adults and be contributing back to the church. Because here's the thing, everybody walks as a child in faith, right? Remember the first time you got saved. I mean, what an amazing time. I love looking at new Christians because there's something innocent and so amazing and pure about a new Christian. You know what I'm saying? It's like they're just like so full of passion. They're so full of zeal. It's just there's something that's special and anointed on a new Christian. And it's like I learn innocence from them. I learn, man, where's my love for the Lord? Because where's my faith? You ever meet somebody that just got saved? Their faith is like through the roof, and it's super encouraging. But as encouraging as it is, the world needs adults. Children are awesome. Children in life. It's the same exact thing as in faith. They remind us of innocence. They remind us, hey, don't take everything too seriously. They remind us to laugh. But can you imagine a kid at 8 years old that has the nuclear codes to the government, to America? You know what I'm saying? Russia does something and then they start crying and then they blow up Russia. Babies and kids, they are amazing and they're really encouraging. However, they cannot be responsible for moving our world forward. Same thing with Christians. That new saved Christians, baby Christians, people that are children of faith are so encouraging to look at. However, you are not called to stay in that. You are called to move on and grow up and mature so that you can help move the church forward. And my heart, again, like I'm saying for this podcast, is that every single one of us would continue to mature and grow, because I have conversations with some of you on Instagram. I have conversations with some of you guys on TikTok, and the big thing is hey, I'm just waiting on God to move in my life, which is amazing, which is a biblical principle. However, can I just propose this, that maybe you're waiting for God to move while God is waiting for you to mature before he moves? I'll say that again. Maybe we are waiting for God to move, but God is waiting for us to mature before he moves, because he doesn't want to give us something that will destroy us. He doesn't want to answer prayers that we're not ready to step into. Okay, so maybe we're praying and, we're praying for we want to start a business. We want to do this. However, God is saying, no, you don't have the principles in your life in place. You don't have the maturity to where you're going to be able to handle that. Maybe some of you are called to vocational ministry. You're just waiting for this pastoral job, when God is saying, no, there are things in your life that you got to deal with, because if you step into a pastor role, it's actually going to be more harmful for people than good for people, because you still haven't dealt with some of the immaturity in your faith. Maybe it's a relationship. Oh, hello. Maybe it's a relationship where you're like, God, I want the one. give me my spouse, give me my wife, give me my husband. When God is saying, if you get into a relationship right now, it's going to be so much harm and it's not going to be good because you don't know how to lead yourself. So how can you lead somebody else? So we have to understand that while we are waiting for God, it's not just waiting, but it's preparing for God to move. And that is in maturity. And how to get to maturity is locking in place some practical principles. And it's hard. It's a hard reality to face that we are weak in areas, but we're all weak in areas. Okay. We all got growth to accomplish in many different aspects. But the thing that we have to do is we have to look at it in the face, look at our weaknesses and say, okay, I'm going to grow. I'm going to develop. What's easier to do is to hide behind excuses. It's easy to stay immature. It's easy to stay as a child and play the blame game. And you know what the blame game is, guys? This is, I see this too much. I'm going to be honest with you. I see this way too much. Okay. Christians need to stop making the devil the scapegoat to the dumb decisions that they make. Okay. Now listen to me. Christians need to stop making the devil the scapegoat to the dumb decisions that they make. What do I mean by that? I mean that maybe you didn't lose your job because the devil is attacking you. Maybe you lost your job because you don't have the work ethic and you were late to work 5 days in a row and your manager had to fire you. Maybe the devil isn't attacking your physical health. Maybe you just don't drink water and you're not taking care of your body. Okay, so what I'm saying is, yes, the devil is the enemy of our soul, but sometimes we live our lives in a way where he doesn't have to do a dang thing because we are doing all his work for him. That is the truth. Bomb. Boom on you guys, okay? Of course, there's the schemes of the enemy. Of course, he is working to try and take us out of our calling. But some of us, he looks at our lives and he goes, oh, yeah, we don't really need a medal because they're kind of just screwing it up themselves. Let's move on to this other person. Okay, so what that means that we have to mature, we have to grow, we have to develop ourselves. And then we can see that through practical principles, through maturity, we are able to step into the things that God has called us to do. So I'm excited for this series. I'm so excited talking about different practical principles. If you have an idea of I wish I was better at this principle or this discipline, DM me on Instagram, message me on Instagram, and I might add it to the arsenal. I might add it to the episode list. Everything I come up with, honestly, for the podcast is through prayer and through conversation with you guys, figuring out what you guys want, what you guys don't like, all of that. So with that saying, I'm super excited for this series. Stay tuned, stay involved with this series. Share this episode with your friends. Share it on Instagram, share it anywhere, share it on Facebook. Just send it to somebody, encourage them, leave a written review so that we pump this out. We are almost, guys, we almost cracked the top charts on Apple Podcast. We almost did it. We were 7 spots short. So I think that it's coming. I think that it's in the near future. So make sure that you're leaving a written review. You're pumping this all over your social media. Shout me out on Instagram. I'll reply to you and I'll repost your story. But other than that, let's take steps to not blame, but to take ownership and to grow in our maturity of faith. And through this series, I believe that we are going to accomplish just that. So I hope that you have a great day. I hope that you have a great week. This coming Friday, we're going to be coming out with the first episode of the Practical Principles. I'm super excited for it. But until then, have a great day. Live with passion and purpose as a Christian leader, and we'll see you next time on The Future Is Now.